We just got off our 21st cruise. These tips will help you avoid regret and pick the perfect excursions. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Travel Talk. We are back in the country. We just got off our 21st cruise. And we have been with, I think, 7 different cruise lines now. And we have done excursions and activities and been to tons of ports. And I thought it was time that I should share some of our top 5 tips for excursions. So do not book any excursions on your next cruise until you watch or listen to this podcast and hear these tips. Okay. So these tips will help you avoid regret and also pick the perfect excursion. So, our recent cruise, which I'm going to kind of use as some of the examples for this, was to the Mediterranean. And our first port was Kusadasi, which is a beautiful port in Turkey. And this port is the perfect example of my first tip, which is to book a private tour. We did a private tour in Kusadasi for a lot of reasons, one of which is because we really wanted to do what we wanted to do in this city. And so we have some great partners that we recommend booking private tours through. Some of them are Tours by Locals, Get Your Guide, Project Expedition, and Shore Excursion Groups, to name a few. But our tour was through Tours by Locals with our amazing guide, Zay. And she was so wonderful. She stayed with us the whole day. She customized the tour to what we were looking to do. We went and saw some absolutely amazing sights. We had a second person who was the driver of our vehicle that picked us up and dropped us off at each of the many places that we went to. And this was just the perfect thing to do at this site. So we were able to go to Ephesus. We got to see the ancient ruins. We went to the Virgin Mary's house. We went to St. John's Basilica. We ended the tour with a wonderful lunch. And that was just a fixed price per person. And it included a variety of foods that were local to that area. So it was just so great to have our own guide, to go at our own pace, to have our own process, to pick places we wanted to go see. And we basically had her for an allotted period of time and could plan out exactly what we wanted to do. So, a private excursion is really great in a lot of cases where you're looking to do something very specific, where you like the idea of being just with your travel party instead of mixed with other travel parties, when you want to customize it to what you're looking for. And in some cases, a private tour could actually be more cost effective than a per person cost on a cruise line tour. So, something to think about. So, tip number 2 is to book through the cruise line. Your other option is to book a cruise excursion through the cruise line. And we like this option too. We did a mix, and we often do a mix, and for the reasons that I'm sharing with you. So, one of the reasons I love booking through the cruise line, or when I look for a cruise line excursion, and that is when we are in a tender port. So a tender port is a port where instead of the ship pulling up to the dock and attaching itself to the dock and being able to walk on and off, the ship is anchored and you have to get on a small boat called a tender, and that will take you into the port. And so this adds like an extra step of getting tender tickets, which you often need, and the time that it takes to do that. And then you have to time that, especially if you're meeting a private guide or a private tour, having to line all that up can be really challenging. So the tender boats are little small boats that you get to jump on. And it just is, it's actually a fun thing. It adds an extra little bit to your day. But when you book through the cruise line, you don't have to think about the tender or the tender tickets, because you're just going to go meet up with your group on the ship, and the tender is going to be taken care of, and everything is going to be super smooth and really easy. So totally makes it worth it to save the time and stress of booking an excursion through the cruise line. And they have some really great options. In Santorini, we did an amazing beach day. This was, again, a great tour to book through the cruise line, because the cruise line really provided, in addition to the easy tendering, just a bus that got us down to this beautiful beach that included, it was a black sand beach in Santorini. There was food options. There was places to sit. There was chairs and umbrellas and everything. And we had the most beautiful day. And then we boarded our big coach bus and headed back up to the cruise ship. So it just was super easy to do this excursion through the cruise line. It was not expensive, definitely a better value than trying to do a private excursion when really the whole day was, relaxing at the beach. And I didn't need a tour guide for that. I didn't need special instructions. I just needed a way to get there. And so that really made it super cost effective. And it was a great experience. So totally, totally great win for a cruise line excursion. The third tip about booking excursions is to be flexible. So this can happen from time to time, but an excursion or port can get canceled or changed. And so this occurred to us on our day that we were supposed to be going to Mykonos, and we got an alert early in the morning around 7:30. The captain came on and told us that due to high winds, we were not going to be able to port in Mykonos and we were going to have the day at sea. So he told us he would keep us updated throughout the day, which was fine. So we had a bonus sea day and we made the most of it. Don't waste time. Uh, Being upset about something that you can't control. Always know going into a cruise that you got to be flexible. So there was letters in our staterooms if you needed to file an insurance claim. All the excursions booked through the cruise line were automatically refunded to your account. If you did have plans that you booked on your own and you purchased travel insurance or protection that we highly recommend, you would have a letter in your room from the cruise line that you would be able to use so you could file your insurance claim. And we just went about our day. We got to spend the day at the pool. But in the early afternoon, the captain came on and made an announcement and said that he was able to rearrange some things and we were going to be able to get into Santorini in the early evening. So at I think it was between 3 and 3:30, we could go down to the main Royal Theater and pick up tender tickets. So I was on that. Off I went. I got my tender tickets. We were like group 44 and not a problem. The guy said anytime after your number's called, you can go. So we finished our day, went to dinner, dressed and ready to go. They called our number while we were at dinner. We finished up our meal. And off we went on the tender to Santorini. And our plans, like I told you before, in Santorini was to go to the beach for the day, which we did the following day. But having this bonus night in Santorini was great because we weren't expecting that. So we were able to see a different part of Santorini. We grabbed the cable car and we went up to Fira, which is on the top of Santorini. Really, all of Santorini is like on the top of a mountain, a lot of it. And so we were able to have amazing views. It was evening. We got to see sunset. We got to eat in a nice restaurant. We went up there just to have wine because we had already had dinner. We found a local bakery where I got my favorite dessert, Galacta Portico, and we wandered around the town and went shopping and just had a wonderful evening in Santorini. And I was glad that we didn't let it get us down. We lost Mykonos. We gained an evening in Santorini. We had fun. We were flexible. That's just kind of the way it rolls on a cruise, so not a problem. So, tip number four is you can go tour on your own. And there are towns and cities, depending on what ports you're in, that have lots of options to go on a tour on your own. And so we did that in Messina, but we've done that in other ports as well. I mean, there's so many ports to talk about. There was port and we did a New England cruise one year and we were in Martha's Vineyard and there was wonderful places to walk around. We were up in Maine and there was lots of places to walk around there. We were in Alaska. Some of the sites were able just to walk around without a tour. And we find that in the Caribbean as well. There's shopping areas and things right off the ship and there's a great area to walk around, do a little shopping, try some food and get back on the ship. So in this example, we're going to talk about Messina, but we went to Messina and toured on our own. So one piece of advice is if you were planning to do this, one, obviously double check and make sure that that makes sense for the port that you're in. Some ports are extremely industrial and there's really nowhere you can go on foot that is going to be comfortable because you have to kind of go somewhere to see anything. So do that research ahead of time. And of course, we're here to help. But if it is something that you can do, walk on your own, do a little research ahead of time, use Google Maps and pin a restaurant or a site or something that you want to see. And that will help you when you get there to pull up that map, pull up those walking directions, and you're off on your way. So in Messina, we ended up walking to this amazing bell tower. It has a huge clock on it, and there was a church as well, a very old church, the Cathedral of Messina. And the clock and the bell tower goes off every 15 minutes, and at noon, it actually does like a full, really long musical thing. And so we walked there. It was a few minutes from where the boat dock was docked. Very easy walk. We walked all around the town, walked up and down a couple of streets, visited in some cafes, some shops, looked at some different food items, worked our way back to where the church was because that was the easiest thing on our map to kind of get back to. And then it was easy to walk back to the port and the ship from there. And then on our way back, we stopped at a lovely cafe and had some of the things you have to taste when you're in Messina. So Messina isn't actually as famous for their pizza when you think of Italy. We're going to talk about that when we get to Naples, but they are famous for limoncello, and you can have it straight. It is very strong, or you can have it in a limoncello spritz, which is very tasty, especially if you like lemon. And of course, some gelato is always good, or an affogato. An affogato is gelato and coffee. So it's like a cup of coffee with some ice cream in it. It's prepared different ways, but an affogato is another local thing you might want to try. And so we sat at this cafe right across the square from where this beautiful church was. And sure enough, at noon, it went into its whole thing. It played Ave Maria. There was bells and chimes, and it was beautiful. And we sat there and we had food, and we were like, I love Italy. So, a day on your own, it's nice to have that slower pace. If you're on a busy itinerary, just kind of going on your own and wandering around can really be, a nice change of pace. So that's great. So tip number 5, and this is do a food tour. So a lot of times when you're looking at ports and you're thinking about like, what do we want to do? And sometimes there's something famous there. Like if you're in Naples, you want to go see Pompeii, or if you're in Alaska, you want to go see the dogs, or you want to do a glacier or something specific. But other ports, it's kind of like, do I want to go to another beach? Do I want to go snorkeling again? Like, what is it that I want to do? I'm not really sure. And so a food tour is a great idea. Again, this is something you kind of put together on your own, but there are guided food tours, and some of them even have some cooking classes. So you're just going to want to figure out if this is something that's going to work well for the people in your group. If you have children of various ages, if you have mobility concerns, if you have food allergies, things like that. So those are some of the things you'll want to check out if it's appropriate for that, but it can be a great way to spend the day and feel like you're really getting to experience a port and a culture and a local vibe by hitting up some of their local restaurants. And so, if you don't have a recommendation before you travel, or you haven't talked to us about one, another good tip is to ask somebody either on the ship, because a lot of the staff on the ship, they're in port every week. And so they have their favorite places that they like to go to. So that can be a good resource. Or if you're on a tour earlier in the day in that same port, you could ask the tour guide. Again, they're local. So ask them, what's a good place to go get, whatever, pizza or something that you think is going to be local to that area that you want to try. So when we were in Naples, we did a tour to Pompeii, but I asked the guide for some food recommendations, and they told us about this place called Pizzeria Brandy. So as soon as we got back to the ship after our tour, we still had like several hours. So we decided to go on a walking tour of food and go find some food and visit a little bit of Naples. And so we went to this walk to this place, Pizzeria Brandy. And if Naples is specifically the port you're going to, I would put this place on your Google Maps, pin it, because between the port where the ship is docked and Pizzeria Brandy is actually a beautiful walk. There's a big Italian piazza with statues, and there's a castle or a fortress, a medieval fortress, and there's some other government buildings, and there's lots of restaurants, and there's gelatos and outside street cafes. And if you get through all of that, you can go eat at Pizzeria Brandy. If you find something fun to do before you get there, you can just stop and do that fun thing. And there's lots of great places to eat. So this is not the only one, but it's kind of a good part to kind of focus as an endpoint. But anyway, so we went to Pizzeria Brandy. There was a guy there playing a guitar and singing Italian songs. And Naples is the place you want to go if you want to try like pizza, because that's kind of where it started, in Naples. And so we went there and we got some food to share. So we figured if we're going to share some things, let's like hit the key items. So we started with a beautiful caprese salad, and that was just absolutely delicious. And then we shared a pizza because, like, when in Italy, right? Like, what else are you going to do? You got to share a pizza. And we finished the meal with a beautiful pasta dish. This was a seafood pasta dish, which was outstanding. And everybody enjoyed the food. Then we left there. We got some gelato. We went in some shops and just kind of worked our way back to the ship. So it ended up being a really fun little adventure that we went on and some amazing food. So, think about that food tour. It's a great option for a pre-stay, a post-stay if you have days in your arrival port or departure port before you head out or whatever. So don't ever underestimate the power of a good food tour. And that was my 5 tips. I hope you find them helpful. And really, the best tip of them all is to work with a travel planner. We have an amazing team of travel advisors here at Magical Memory Planners. Even though I've been on 21 cruises, I am not the one that has cruised the most. We have some awesome, awesome agents that have been on many, many cruises, and they can help you figure out what excursions are going to be right for you, whether a private tour, a excursion through the cruise line, doing something on your own, going on a foodie tour, and helping you understand the ins and outs in case you have a backup plan in case something gets canceled or changed. But we would love to help you with that. And if you want to learn more about some of the excursions we've been on, from the puppies in Alaska to our wonderful med cruise that we just got off of, be sure to visit our Instagram and our YouTube channel where we have lots of those videos for you. Thanks.